Hello, beautiful Facebook family. I wanted to jump on today and share about commitment. And the reason for that is because it's something that a lot of my clients struggle with, both in having someone that wants commitment and also in being able to commit themselves into love and in relationships. And my experience with my partner was super interesting, and I'm going to share a little bit about that because it's actually been really easy. The whole journey has been really easy for me in terms of having him just fully show up for me, make plans with me, pursue me, and commit to me. It has been really easy, and how he's shown up. And it was me that had to, when I received a man that wanted commitment and wanted to show up for me, it was me that had to work through a lot of fear. I had to work through a lot of fear and fully receiving that. And so I want to share about that because I think it's something that so often what's spoken about is, men are afraid of commitment, and this man won't commit to me, or he's not showing up for me. And what I want to share about is, do you feel safe to actually receive that? Because a lot of what's happening is we're unconsciously attracting or playing out a pattern of someone not fully showing up for us, because underneath that is actually some deep fear and an inability to receive it because it doesn't feel safe. So I'm also going to talk about why people don't commit, like what's the fear, what's really going on around what might be there. So what I want to start with is actually by sharing about what happened with me and my partner. And I actually asked him last night. I asked him 2 questions last night, and the first question was, what made you keep making plans with me? Like, what was within you, and that, why did you want to keep seeing me? Like, what was there for you? And his response was curiosity was the first response. He was curious about me, and he said that he was curious and wanting to get to know me. And secondly, he was, he loved how he felt around me. And he did jokingly say, well, I love cooking and you love my cooking, and you like to eat, you like to eat. And we were a great match. And it was interesting because I would really appreciate him cooking for me, because I'm not a great cook, and I kind of laid that out straight away. I said, look, like even on our first catch up, which wasn't technically a date, it was, I had asked him to connect further, and yes, I asked him. So for the women out there that are like, oh, I shouldn't ask a man out, or I shouldn't, like he should be like, come to me, I want to like blow that out of the water. And one of the questions I got asked recently from a client was, well, once you asked him, did he then pursue you? Did he make effort? And I was like, yeah, he did. He's the one that kept making plans. And I want to talk a little about why that was as well. And which is to do with my ability to be receptive as well. And what I was really upfront about was that, I'm going to ask you to connect, but you need to cook and you need to build a fire, because I don't know how to do any of those things. And so instantly he got to be in the provider role, right? So even though I had asked him and being direct, which was actually quite vulnerable for me, I was like instantly like putting out like, I've got flaws, I'm not perfect. I'm going to need your help with some stuff. And men love to serve, men love to help. So automatically he got to feel like, hey, like, oh cool, I get to build a fire, I get to help her build a fire, I get to cook for her, like, and I was so grateful, I was so appreciative and like really impressed, and like he was actually really good at both of those things, fortunately. And I made sure that I really appreciated him for that. Then on the first date, which became a date, wasn't actually officially a date, I made sure I was energetically open. Yeah. So what this meant is that there was playful touch, right, which had been an edge for me prior to this, but I had been practicing. Yeah. So I'd been going out on dates. So this is the other thing. I was connecting with other men. I wasn't just focusing on dating and connecting with one person. I was out there multi-dating. And so I wasn't focused and hooked on or getting attached to one person, which is my experience in the past. I'd meet one like awesome guy and then I'd drop all the rest, or I just focus on that one person and wouldn't make myself available for anyone else, which then all my time, like energy, focused on this one person. And so what happened is I made myself energetically open, where through playful touch, which was giving him an opening. It's like, oh, okay, there's an opening here. And I also touched myself. Yeah. So when I was touching myself, it's like, okay, this is me and my feeling. It's like, and again, it's like, I didn't have to think about doing these things. It wasn't like, oh, like I got to make sure that I touch him. I wasn't thinking about it, and I wasn't thinking about touching myself. It had become natural because I had been practicing that in my own intimacy practice, in my own, like, lovingly touching myself. So it would become really natural for me. So I didn't have to think about it. And this is what, when people talk about feminine magnetism, this is like, a lot of it is like being embodied. Okay. So rather in the mind thinking, oh, make sure I say this thing that will activate this thing in him, or like, no, like it's like actually about being in receptivity by being in your body and feeling safe in your body. And because I've been doing this for a really long time through, different feminine embodiment and masculine embodiment, it had become really natural for me. So I teach a self-intimacy practice in one of my groups and in with my clients, because it is about like self-intimacy, self-partnership first, and then it just becomes natural instead of worrying about what you have to say or what you have to do on a day. You don't have to think about it from the mind. You just show up in this embodiment of yourself, rather than trying to be a certain way to impress someone or get them to like you, right? Which, as soon as you're doing that, you devalue yourself. As soon as you're trying to be something you think that they would make you like them, like you more, then you're devaluing yourself, and that will get reflected back to you, and then they won't value you, or you're not fully able to be yourself. So so this is one of the things that I know, like he didn't speak to that, but this is one of the things that I know would have made him curious about me, is that he could feel that I was in my feeling. Yeah, he could feel that there was an opening there. It's to feel it like there was like there was a safety of him to be himself, because I felt safe being myself, right? So I felt safe to be in my body. I felt safe to be in myself. So there was a piece of him that was like, oh, it's safe for me to be myself around this woman. And that is huge for a man, to feel like he can be himself, because I'm in my feeling and I feel safe to be in my feeling. He feels safe to be in his feeling. It's not like I'm not using the words, I'm not using words, I'm actually just being it, right? So it's an embodiment piece. I'm being that. So that would have created curiosity for him, and the piece of, I just felt good around you. Like I loved how I felt around you. I felt like I could be myself around you. And that's because I felt safe to be myself. I wasn't trying to be anything. I wasn't trying to do anything. I was just showing up as me. And a part of that was feeling, I was what I call soul aligned. And a part of that was I had released myself from the roles I had been playing in my relationships, which were the rescuer, the high achiever, the caretaker, and I had released myself from those roles because they were the roles that were safe for me to get and receive love and approval. So when I released those roles, I get to show up as a more soul aligned version of me, right? So when I'm with this person and when I'm with him, I'm just showing up as the embodiment of me, which makes him to feel more safe to show up as himself. And then, so the next question, and then he wanted to keep making plans with me. So it was very, like, I think maybe I was at like one time, maybe I didn't hear from him for a couple of days, and but other than that, he just kept making plans. So and I just kept being able to be in this feminine, and I kept telling him what I loved and telling him asking him for what I needed and what I desired. And, you know, he just kept meeting those things. Like men want to know what we want. They want to know what we need. They want to know what we love. They're like, oh, okay, she loves that. I'm going to provide this for her. You know, they want to serve, they want to provide. And the second question I asked him was, and this was really cool and it was really beautiful. I said, what made you actually want to commit to me? Now, the interesting story is that he's the one that asked for commitment. Like, he's the one that said, I want commitment. And this for me was like huge. Like, I was like, really? I was like, oh, that's not what I had no idea this was coming, by the way. And for me, I was the one that was like, ooh, wow, like, this is actually me. I started to notice like what fears were there for me, and the terror that I felt, when I realized that this is actually going to be like, this an opportunity for here to be this, for this to be a committed relationship. I was like, wow, like stuff around trust, stuff around losing my freedom, losing myself, feeling trapped. Like, wow, I was like, is it safe for me to receive this? Because when I looked at commitment, it was like, okay, it was like, what are the fears of the consequences or the perceived consequences of committed relationship that I have to face? And that's what was going on. I was like having to face this terror that I felt, and I was like, no wonder I have not allowed a man to show up for me. No wonder I haven't allowed a man in that wants to devote himself to me. No wonder I haven't allowed a man in who wants to fully choose me. No wonder, because this is fucking terrifying. Like, holy shit. And that being reflected back to me in men that wouldn't fully show up or would go into fear when they started to get too close, when they started to be like, oh, this could be something deeper, and like their shit would come up, right, and they would go into fear. And I was like, what I found difficult was I literally was like, when he was like, he kept showing up and he keeps showing up, I'm like, he's gonna not show up. I'm just waiting for it. I'm waiting for it to, like, him to suddenly not show up. Like, I'm waiting. It's like I was waiting for him to turn around and be like, to pull away. I was like, what, like, you know, there's this little part of me that had this fear of like, yeah, we'll see. Like, we'll see what's gonna happen. And you know, without being too going too deep into it, I just had to keep trusting. And I had my own coach supporting me with this, that I had to keep getting feedback from her to be like, is this healthy? Are you sure this is healthy? Like, and because he kept showing up, and in the past, when a man had fully shown up for me, it had led to him, like, he would pedestal me, and then it would lead to him at some point like pulling away or being really nasty or being narcissistic. And I was literally like, I was hunting for these red flags and I could not find any. I was like, okay, is this a red flag? Okay, is this, you know, healthy? Is this, you know? So it was like these parts of me that were in fear. And I had really healthy boundaries as well. Like, we weren't seeing each other all the time. We were, you know, still communicating, but it wasn't like too intense. It was like a good, healthy amount. And I never felt fear around his communication on, like, I never was like, why isn't he messaging me? I have none of that. There was none of that bullshit in the space. I like consistently felt like he was secure and safe and healthy. It was consistent communication. If he ever didn't communicate with me when he said he wasn't going to communicate, he would own it, and he would come into this, you know, tell me how important it was to him to honor his agreements. And he does a lot of men's work, and he's a leader where makes men be accountable for being in integrity. So for him, that's really important. It's a high value of his, to make sure that he sticks to the agreements that he makes, which I loved. And so for me, it was like just having this huge realization of like all these times where, men have become avoidant or pulled away or not shown up for me or become abusive or nasty, whatever, is essentially there was so much of my fear that was being reflected in my fear of the consequences of intimacy. And when I really started to dive into that, it was that I was afraid that I was going to get hurt again, and be betrayed. And so, pretty much in most of my past relationships, there'd always been another woman come into the space, and, that I'd be betrayed again. And that commitment would lead to me losing my business and everything that I'd worked so hard for, because that had happened before. Fear that, if I really opened my heart and went all in, that, it wouldn't work out. So losing self as well, and feeling trapped. So, and these were all parts of me being my avoidant. This is me being avoidant. So it was safe for me to be dating men that wouldn't fully show up for me, or wouldn't pursue me, or may start out that way, and then when we start to get really close, and there's a possibility of going deeper, they would pull away, and then that would trigger my shit. And I hadn't experienced this for a really long time, actually. I'd taken a big break away from dating, and but then I started really exploring all these different connections, and so that's what I guess. Okay, so back to I knew there was something else here. So his answer, so this is really cool. So when I asked him, what made you want to choose, what made you want commitment, and I could see he was there, and he was thinking, and he's like having this kind of puzzled look on his face, and he's like, and I could see him going into this filing cabinet of his brain to be like, let me try and find out what was there. And he's like, it's not in my mind, it's in my heart. He's like, it was my heart that committed to you. It's my heart that wanted commitment. It wasn't, if I'd chosen from my mind, I would have been too afraid. I would have let my fear take over. And I remember when he did say he wanted commitment, what he said to me was that he said, if I was to go with my head right now, my head is saying, no, I need to make sure that I've so he was coming out, he was separated, he'd been separated from his ex-wife, who he's married to for 25 years, and he was going through the separation. So his mind was like, no, I shouldn't commit, and I should wait until that's all complete, and I'm fully and he said, that's what my mind would say, but my heart says, no, this is what I want. And something I think I shared, I said, when you choose from the heart beyond the fear, everything else just lines up. And that's exactly what happened. Suddenly everything started with his past relationship. Everything started to move really fast. It all got really clean. Everything got really clean energetically, and it's all just moved and shifted into so that we could enter this relationship really cleanly. So it's pretty amazing, actually. So what I had to do, and what I noticed in that experience, was that I was doing the same. Yeah, I was because I had been, as we'd been dating, I had been going beyond my fear. I had been noticing the parts of me that were trying to find red flags, or not feeling safe to receive all this love. Can I receive all his love? Whoa, whew. I was can I receive it? Fully, is this okay? Is this safe to receive? And, through, and I was testing him as well. And I told him I was testing him. I'd ask him certain questions, to make sure his answer was not narcissistic, shit like that. And I was and I said to him, I don't want to be testing you. And but I'm just telling you that this is there. This is really real with him about it. And I said, I hope one day that I will feel, that I don't have to do that. And that happened. And so what happened is that we decided to commit. So we both just went in with our hearts, and ever since then it's been so easy. It's really, does it get to be this easy? Once we both got past any fear that was there, And what I want to say to this is we were both committed to doing the work. We had both done so much work on ourselves already. We both moved through so much fear already. We'd both done a lot of healing on our past wounds and abandonment, and we'd done a lot of work already. And so we both had the level of awareness that we were like, there was fear there, but our desire to be together was greater than our fear. And so we'd committed to also working on being in our hearts and being committed to ourselves first. So this is the piece, is like we were already committed to ourselves first, and to being in our hearts, and to living from our hearts, and to having that relationship with ourselves as our first and foremost relationship, so that we were coming together from self-commitment and then committing wholly from that place. So it's the heart that commits. It's the heart that wants to choose commitment. And you have to go beyond your fear of commitment. And if you keep thinking I keep attracting people that can't fully commit, I want you to really look at, is it me? What am I afraid of when it comes to committed relationship? What associated commitment with? What has been in the past? Where have I in the past? What is my experience? What is it like a negative consequence of commitment that I've had that I may be afraid of? So what I'm going to do is with my and I'd love to know, actually, I can fully encourage you to comment below what that might be for you, what's been there for you, is that one more piece I want to add, because I'm going to do something cool for you guys, is that when I had having this man fully show up for me, like, now I reflect on the dating experience I've had when men don't show up, and I'm like, I can't, like, I was like, really? I settled for that, I was like, oh, so this is what it's like to be shown up for. Wow. Like, this is what it's like when I make myself fully available and receptive for someone to show up. When I show up for me, when I feel safe to receive this, when I've worked through and working through any fears I have around really being in a relationship again, then I make myself available, and those other times I can see that I was actually allowing something because that's what was safe for me, because I had actually had these deeper fears going on, right? So instead of projecting on like that person is being fucking avoidant, or they're pulling away, or it's all their shit, it's like, I want you to really self-reflect on like where you don't actually feel safe to fully receive someone that has the capacity to show up for you in their heart, and where you might not be fully have your heart open or be fully energetically open, right? So what I want to and when you get it and you have that person fully show up for you, you'll know this feeling. You'll be like, so this is what it's like to receive this, right? So what I want to say, what I want to share, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 3-day series on this, on basically it's going to be as part of my book launch, which is Valentine's Day. So how perfect. So on the 14th, 15th and 16th of February, Australia time, I'm going to do a 3-day masterclass. And so it's going to be Become the One masterclass. And what we're going to do is on day one, we're going to look at what is still protecting you from receiving the love you really want. What are your protective roles and identities that you have created that's keeping yourself safe? So that's when I talk about the high achiever and the caretaker and the rescuer, and you might be the good girl, the nice guy. So this is going to be for men and women, for everyone, to be able to do this masterclass. So that's going to be day 1. Day 2 is going to be actually looking at what is your current commitment blueprint. Yeah, so what is it that you're holding? Like, what are your fears of the consequences of commitment that you've associated it with? Yeah, and really discovering what those are. And then on day 3, I'm going to talk about this, piece of self-commitment and self-partnering with your, what I call your inner beloved, and creating and embodying your new soul-aligned blueprint, relationship blueprint. Yeah. So instead of the current blueprint, which will be what's most familiar for you, and we unconsciously choose what's familiar because we believe that's what's most safe. So we unconsciously keep choosing that, even though we want something different that we've probably never had before. The brain will keep choosing what's familiar because that knows what's safe. And what you need to do is create a new, what I call a new familiar blueprint. When I did my 3-day intimacy masterclass, I talked about your intimacy blueprint, creating a new familiar intimacy blueprint. So this is going to be based on a soul aligned relationship blueprint. And what I mean by soul aligned is that when you're running roles and identities, you'll tend to attract a role mate relationship, not a soulmate relationship. And you relate to people from your roles, right, rather than from your soul. And so when you release your roles, you become more in alignment with your own soul, and then you become an energetic match for people that are soul aligned. Yeah, and so then you have relationships that are not codependent, right, because you're not relating from these codependent roles, these dynamics you've created from childhood. So for me, one of my biggest ones was the rescuer and the victim, where rescuer was a role that I'd created and that had played out in my relationships. And so when I released that role, then I was able to attract people that were more soul aligned, because I was more soul aligned. And so and when I had people come into my experience that were victim, instead of finding having attraction to them, I would have repulsion. I'd be like, okay, instead of having this magnetic attraction, it's like I would have actually be like, okay, that person is not aligned. Whereas before it felt like chemistry, and it felt like, oh my God, it's so intense. It's like, yeah, because we were polarized with the rescuer and the victim, right? So when I released that just wasn't attraction. I wasn't I'm talking I thought people were my twin flames, and actually it was just a rescuer victim dynamic, narcissist codependent dynamic, and I thought they were my twin flames because it was the roles that we were playing. So glad I released that shit. And so the more that you come into alignment with your own soul and releasing those codependent roles, you just won't even be attracted to those dynamics, and you won't feel that high level of chemistry or addiction or just the attachment to those people, because their role's just not there anymore. So so we're going to be diving into all of that over the 3 days. So that is going to be 14th, 15th and 16th of February, Valentine's Day weekend. And it's going to be in my Become the One group. So if you're not in it, make sure you get in it. There will be more coming, and I'll set up a little Facebook event, and I'll drop the group here for you guys so that you can join. I'm really excited for this, and this is going to be part of my book launch. So yay! I'm really excited for that, and I talk a lot about this stuff in my book. So looking forward to connecting. Awesome, Dilsa. Yay! All right, beautifuls. Hope you got a lot out of this, and I look forward to connecting with you in the group more. Bye.